Hey everyone. So today we have the amazing Vibha, and she is also a painter, like whatnot. So she's a storyteller, and she's telling throughout her life, she's been telling stories. Even before the college, even during the school, I have seen those drawings as well. So Vibha is a storyteller who use various mediums to express herself because this stories is all about self-discovery. Even if she is having other people, let's say in movies, filmmaking. But even these people are the mode of telling stories that Vibha is creating. And Vibha is a filmmaker, Indian filmmaker, and she is based in LA. And she has also done new media design from NID. She has been exploring various kind of art forms like performance art, fine art, interactive art, theater, sculpture, paintings. Like she is exploring anything and everything. It's like she feels the entire world is full of the mediums, and they're using all the mediums to tell stories, including humans.
Thank you. I think you covered. Thank you everyone for being here. So yes, as Hiten rightly said, I actually started my storytelling journey. Um, I'll just backtrack a little bit to the whole term storytelling.
Yes.
So, as kids growing up, you're always been telling stories to, like, my grandmom used to tell me stories and my mom used to tell me stories just to put me to sleep, but that would just take me to a completely different world. And the way I would understand or process life started um, going through storytelling itself. And one of the first mediums that I actually did was, it started with drawing and caricatures, portraits. And then from that, it would just be like metaphorically drawing things that I cannot explicitly express through words. And then I would also write and poetry, and sometimes it would be linked. Like I would begin with writing a piece of poetry, and that would become like a form of art, or like I would start drawing first, and that would become like the seed to write something about. So I started that as my journey. I went to St. Xavier's College, where I was very inclined in towards geology actually. But I realized that my inclination was more towards rocks and stones and the study of that, that I went on to do sculpture instead, because I wanted to know the story of the stones by carving them and seeing what comes out of that.
So
And so while
it was like you went there to study something else, but you studied sculpture. Was it like that?
So I went to geology, like I went to Xavier's to do geology, but at the same time, I was also a little bit confused whether I wanted to do fine art.
Mhm.
But when it comes to fine art, also back when I did it, it was not very common. We
Yeah.
didn't have so many design colleges and so many opportunities. And also for family, it was like, is there a career in
Yeah.
art? Is there something, because science, engineering, those were like more regular fields that we would go to. So at that time, I was very inclined towards anything that is storytelling. I did art installations at, I participated in residencies while I was there. And Also growing up, I've been a classical dancer. So dance has also been a part of my storytelling journey. And it has almost been like I have tried to use the medium that has come most natural to the form of story or expression that is needed at that point. So while I was doing my undergrad at sculpture, in sculpture at Chitrakala Parishad, that's when I was newly exposed to performance art as a medium.
Yeah.
And I was one of the main things that turned that as an interest for me was I worked on this project where I would like to share it actually.
Yes, please share.
Is this sharing?
Yeah, yeah. It's visible. Yes. I remember this one.
So this was my first performance art. And so we had, this was a part of a submission. I mean, it was a course module, which was actually interactive art. And there was a course module, which was animal art. And I just decided to combine the two and make it a performance art. So this was around a time when actually uh, the Nirbhaya case was going on.
Okay.
And um, as a woman, I felt very um, insecure and unsafe to just exist in the world around me. And it was very strange that I had an impulse I was welding, and I had an impulse to weld, like I designed this cage myself and I welded it.
Okay.
And when I worked, like I did that, I made that cage and I just decided to like dress up and sit in it. And all I decided to do was anybody comes to talk to me, I'll mock them back. Whatever they're saying, I will repeat it.
Okay.
This was more of a social experiment because I have made the cage and I was feeling safe inside the cage because I knew that even if somebody wants to touch me, they can only touch me as much as I want to allow them. And so I went in different parts of the institute as well as I went into this art exhibition that was happening in this mela. And while I was doing that, there were a lot of people that were repeating, people were finding it fascinating, and all of those things. And so, but as my experience as a performer was mostly that as women, like especially, and also as like a part of that experiment, I realized how it felt that as women we become so much comfortable in that cage that we build around ourselves only to feel safe.
Yeah.
And that is something that I realized, and it almost like reinforced when I did this social experiment, seeing that people are interacting with me and all of that. And I felt that that is one of the main reasons, especially in our country, we feel that a lot of women today, things are changing, women are becoming aware of that, we're getting out of that cage, we're stepping out of that cage. But in spite of that, we know that that added responsibility comes in to take care of our safety. And though we are all willing to step out and fly from that cage, that still is not an issue that has been 100% resolved. But these are some things that I did before my undergrad. This is how I used to process my emotions or thoughts.
Wow.
And though I was around uh, just after 10th, 12th standard, I realized that the same thought process today has evolved, but the emotion remains. And that's how, the storytelling and also like the story of where you come from and your identity is so deeply associated with that, that as a storyteller, no matter how old you grow, even as filmmakers, no matter how old the filmmaker matures, they will actually be still rooting back to their roots culturally, where they come from, and what were the social dynamics that actually played an impact on them at that age. I studied more about identity and performance art, and I also got to dive deep into all the mediums. So, right from experimental animation to studying print media to studying the impact of each of that media. And even as designers, it's ultimately the medium that is going to tell your story. whatever that is, and how you're going to connect with the society through that. This is a project I don't want to go too deep because I understand that everybody's just about beginning, but I just want to give an overall gist of how a design process looks like, even when it comes to performance art. While that first one was more of a free flow and more experimental in nature, where I was trying to understand more by staying in my body and seeing the interaction with people. This is something that is more, uh, I have explored materials and mediums. I've explored interactivity, and at the same time, I did almost a 2-year research on identity, which was more scholarly research. And as opposed to how the previous one was more explorative in terms of my body being the medium, in this, my body is the medium as a performer, but the emphasis is not so much like on that interaction. It's more to do with how this is. And the nature of that is also something that I will go take you through. So my project brief for the design project was to study the relation between dance, choreography, costumes with the help of interactive dance tools. And in that, I went deeper into the research of understanding factors that influence choreography of a dance performance. And these were the themes that came up. So what happens is when you're researching about something, uh, you will see that all the multiple research papers that you uh, open and see, you will or read through in detail, you will find certain keywords that consistently reappear. And that is how we form themes as, in terms of design research. So the themes that appeared for me was identity, body and space, and interculturalism. And you will find almost that every design research project that you do, you will definitely find the theme of identity showing up in different forms.
Yeah, true.
So in the context of this, in terms of performance and dance, what showed up mostly was identity, gender roles, binding of the body, and like structure, control, all of these things. And while doing that, like, and also like relation with body and space. There was a time when dance used to be folk. There was a time when dance used to be like a religious practice, and there was also a time when it became a particular kind of performance space. So these were certain things that came up. And in a dance, in any kind of design research, when you're doing, you will find that every research question keeps getting reframed. So as you go deeper into it, you will realize that, okay, the question that I previously had was not so significant or not so important, whereas this is something that needs more attention. So the initial thing was to do with this choreography and everything with a certain kind of tech which I had framed. But in this, I realized that, okay, along with the evolution of dance and choreography, technology also has evolved that has actually affected dance and its evolution. And cinemascope and all of those things to now where there's like holograms and other media. And also you will find like, people who have these Xbox and PlayStation, there are interactive dance games. So it also entered the gaming space, creating a participatory dance that shapes choreography, and props can be added by the members of the audience in a way that it is like a metaphor for how society is actually controlling what a dancer's moves are. And I will take you through a little more in what I'm in terms of society and dance, especially when it comes to Indian classical dance, a little after this. So I would like to share this. This is how the dance performed.
So everyone, this is Vibha dancing. This is she herself.
So this was one of the main projects that actually gave me a lot of insight into storytelling before I turned to completely becoming a filmmaker. And to make that performance, it took me 2.5 years, which was longer than NID course.
Yeah,
So it took me 2.5 years to do that because everything was from scratch. The projections had to be programmed. So I did do a part of the programming, and I had the help of a programmer, developer friend. And along with that, there was projection mapping as well that was required to map the projection based on that screen that was
yes.
made. And that screen was actually mosquito net taken from
Okay.
Ahmedabad. And that's the reason you see those panels, because that is the meter
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. That we
ranges
get,
of.
yes.
So that is when you will realize, okay, is this, so are my words like that? Like today in the world of social media, storytelling is like every day. The story we know is Instagram stories or like posts or, any form of social media. And people don't think twice, but a very small thing that they troll can leave a very significant impact. And also, how, if we have to see in terms of like storytelling and how it actually affects us as a society, You can see that very clearly in social media today because that is the most active medium. How that polarizes, how that actually guides you, and storytelling in terms of data storytelling with how um, it's all machine learning. The things that we see are basically what is programmed for us to see based on what we see. And it keeps repeating that. So, what you must be watching will be very different from what I will be watching. And so, your story perspective will be completely defined as per that. And my story perspective will be completely defined as per what I watch. And
Yeah.
that is how polarization works. That is how people are set up against each other. And coming to that, I actually want to talk about how storytelling is not just in the entertainment space or performance space or like talking space. Even as product designers, story is something that is very significant because if you see today, like devices, this is very digital. It's very, the form of this is very flat. And if you see objects that are from before the digital age, you'll see have rounded forms. You will see have more organic structures, like how things are exist in nature. A
Mm.
lot of that form has inspired the structure of it. You'll see everything, like even cars, they resemble animals. You'll see everything has something to do with, where it comes from. It has a context. But because this is something that is so abstract for like the being, what happens is instead of this adapting to us, we start adapting to this. And you will see that now, as human beings, we'll all have this mobile finger. And I want to quickly share a little video which we learned in NID.
Of all the objects we have seen and admired during our visit to India, the lota, that simple vessel of everyday use, stands out as perhaps the greatest, the most beautiful. The village women have a process which, with the use of tamarind and ash, each day turns this brass into gold. But how would one go about designing a lota? First, one would have to shut out all preconceived ideas on the subject and then begin to consider factor after factor. The optimum amount of liquid to be fetched, carried and poured and stored in a prescribed set of circumstances. The size and strength and gender of the hands, if hands, that would manipulate it. The way it is to be transported, head, hip, hand, basket or cart. The balance, the center of gravity. When empty, when full, its balance when rotated for pouring. The fluid dynamics of the problem, not only when pouring, but when filling and cleaning, and under the complicated motions of head carrying, slow and fast. Its sculpture, as it fits the palm of the hand. The curve of the hip. Its sculpture, as complement to the rhythmic motion of walking or a static pose at the well. The relation of opening to volume in terms of storage uses and objects other than liquid. The size of the opening and inner contour in terms of cleaning. The texture, inside and out, in terms of cleaning and feeling. Heat transfer. Can it be grasped if the liquid is hot? How pleasant does it feel? Eyes closed. Eyes open. How pleasant does it sound when it strikes another vessel, is set down on ground or stone, empty or full, or being poured into? What is the possible material? What is its cost in terms of working? What is its cost in terms of ultimate service? What kind of an investment does the material provide as product, as salvage? How will the material affect the contents? How will it look as the sun reflects off its surface? How does it feel to possess it, to sell it, to give it? Of course, no one man could have possibly designed the lota. The number of combinations of factors to be considered gets to be astronomical. No one man designed the lota, but many men over many generations. Many individuals represented in their own way through something they may have added or may have removed, or through some quality of which they were particularly aware. The hope for and the reason for such an institute as we describe is that it will hasten the production of the lotas of our time. By this we mean a hope that an attitude be generated that will appraise and solve the problems of our coming times with the same tremendous service, dignity, and love that the lota served its time.
I didn't
Yeah.
see this at NID actually. I am seeing this now, and it generates a lot of thoughts, and it's historical, and I think it will keep on going. It is not going anywhere. This will stay with us, and I think it has a lot of value, in terms of, like they also said, astronomical, and this is also like in scientific. How it will cool down your water, the sound, the shape, and how with each metal, or maybe you can reshape. So this was different kind of approach. Very insightful. Thank you for sharing.